Stealth is over for Lockheed Martin. He has to say, couldn't be any more right. In the 12-day war, we got the experience to upgrade toward new generation air defense systems. The interviewer says, tell us about that night at 2 a.m. when you hit the F-35. Sighting was confirmed. He says, we had it fully tracked. We had a perfect firing position. We've learned to say, God willing, certainly, because what we do, God does. When we fire, God fires. When we saw it hit, the pride of the men at impact when the aircraft was struck was indescribable, he says. Trump is apparently very upset with the situation involving Iran. Axios just reported Trump is fed up with the situation and wants to put an end to it. He doesn't like the idea of Iran controlling the Strait of Hormuz and using it against us. Trump doesn't want to fight anymore, but he will if he feels he has no choice. That was breaking news that just came in moments ago. And the Trump administration, apparently, according to Axios, is scheming up these plans, these disaster plans to take Karg Island or do some sort of a forward operating base in Chabahar. They're talking about all these crazy sorts of plans once more. We'll see what happens. But Trump has, he has reiterated the idea of doing the bridge day again. You remember the bridge day, the power plant day, when he said he was going to blow up every bridge, every power plant, all the civilian infrastructure. We're just at a point in time now where the president of the United States is not once. It's not like a whoopsies. It's like a repeated threat to just bomb all the civilian infrastructure. Iran as a country will die. Their civilization will die. We'll bomb the entire country. It's just, I'm becoming a little bit numb to it, to be honest, these threats. Trump is now saying that the entire country of Iran will be blown up. They do not make a deal with the U.S. Bridges and power plants will, of course, be targeted according to these new threats. So the Trump administration is in a state of, public limbo. This is the facade that they're putting out, that, we really want a deal. We really want to make something work in Islamabad. J.D. Vance wants to go. We want this so bad, but the Iranians just won't bend the knee. I don't believe any of this stuff, that the U.S. is interested in a deal. I don't believe it just as much as I didn't believe the whole notion before the 12-day war or before this war, when every single MAGA influencer, every single journalist, every single pundit and commentator and dipshit with the YouTube show was saying that Trump really doesn't want this war. He really doesn't want this war. It's just Israel is forcing him into this position. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I didn't believe it then. I don't believe it today. And I'm not going to believe it if you tell it to me tomorrow. If he wants to stop this war, there's a very clear out here. I mean, Iran, they're pragmatic. They're willing to, maybe they say, we'll downgrade the highly enriched uranium. Maybe they'll say, we'll make sure that we will allow the IAEA to come back into Iran. Maybe they'd be willing to say things like, we'll limit our enrichment for everything. We'll limit our enrichment, allowing only for the medical isotopes, right? Civilian applications. I don't know what the deal is here. I don't know what the Iranians are suggesting. Judging from the talks that took place in Islamabad the last time and Oman prior to that, the Iranians were willing to offer far more than what I just said. Far more than what I just said. And all the U.S. would have to do is say, okay, Iran, we're going to free up the money. Last Spotlight, we talked about Saga Metals trading as SAGMF in the United States and Saga, SAGA in Canada, and their acquisition of another titanium asset in the same district as the world's largest titanium mine. Today, that story is accelerating. Saga Metals just strengthened its position with the aptly named Wolverine project in Labrador. The global energy transition faces a critical bottleneck, a heavy rare earth element monopoly. Many of the elements essential for defense and advanced technology come from unstable or adversarial regions. Saga Metals offer a direct solution with the Wolverine Project, a massive 100% owned asset in the safe Tier 1 jurisdiction of Labrador, Canada. Remember, this isn't just about mineral exploration, it's about national security. The Trump administration has declared it imperative to secure domestic supply chains for defense. The U.S. remains dangerously dependent on foreign sources. Around 80% of its rare earths come from abroad. To ensure long-term defense readiness, North America needs a new generational reserve. Saga Metals is currently finalizing a maiden resource of 100 million tons with a long-term conceptual target of over 1 billion tons. The Wolverine Project could be a cornerstone of North America's secure supply of critical minerals for decades. I'll leave you with this. Saga's Wolverine Project sits near the Voisey's Bay discovery, one of the most famous mining deals ever at over $4.3 billion. That deal is a perfect example of how a single discovery can transform a company. Early stage explorer, major discovery, multi-billion dollar buyout. That's the kind of backdrop you're looking at here. Saga Metals is positioned in that same region with government mandates behind the sector, strong drill results, and a team executing year-round. In my view, the current valuation doesn't yet reflect the scale of what they're building. And with momentum accelerating, this is a story you need to be following closely. If you want to learn more about this critical mineral story, check out the link in the description, and a special thanks to Saga Metals for making today's video possible. In these bank accounts that we seized, right, even the U.S. can't utilize the funds that are in these frozen funds in foreign bank accounts. So the U.S. literally is not even giving money to Iran. They'd just be opening up the coffers back to the Iranians. And it's a negligible amount, given a state of that size and what they would be, the cards that they'd effectively be sacrificing. And they'd say, we'll have like a tiered system of reopening the sanctions and who knows what else, some sort of a regional deal the U.S. would have to agree to. I don't know. It seems like a no-brainer to me. It really does. That's clearly something Trump could take and walk away with and say that's a win. But he's not doing that. And you have to ask the question, why? You have to ask the question, why did he start the first war and the second war if everyone was telling you that Trump really didn't want to start these wars and he's just, being pressured or something, or he's being threatened? How many times do we have to fall? And I'm not saying me because I didn't and many of you didn't, but how many times do people have to fall for the same lies before they understand that, actually, no, the U.S. also wants this war. They have wanted this war for many, many years. And this not only is about Iran, it's not only about wiping out Iran and replacing the leadership, it's also, and even more so, about stopping China, stopping China's rise, stopping the Belt and Road Initiative. It's also about encircling Russia. It's also about causing a new jihadist problem, that would easily flow up into Russia's south. This is well within the aims and goals of the United States in trying to maintain this unipolar world order. And I just hate these people that consistently say, without any sort of reflection, that Trump doesn't want this. How stupid do you have to be? Okay, let's take a listen.
I just spoke with President Trump for about 20 minutes, and he told me if Iran does not sign this deal, the whole country is getting blown up. He went on to say that bridges and power plants will be targeted if Iran does not sign this agreement. I just spoke with
Okay. Israel is preparing to return to fighting with Iran at any moment. That's from Israeli Channel 12. U.S. CENTCOM Commander Brad Cooper, yes, that's his real name, Admiral Bradley Cooper, said, "We are ready to attack Iran after the ceasefire if Trump decides so." And we now see this. The U.S. Air Force has sent aerial refueling aircraft, 2 tankers, from Ben Gurion Airport in what they call Israel, on its way to the Persian Gulf, just off the coast of Iran. So they've sent, these air refueling tankers. They've now placed the USS Gerald R. Ford back in the region. Remember when they said it got like a some of the lint from the dryer caused like a massive fire that resulted in 600 hospitalizations or something, 300, 600 hospitalizations, whatever it was. And then it had to go dock in Greece, and now it's back. So the USS Gerald R. Ford has left the ports in Greece and is on its way. It's actually now arrived back in the Middle East, somewhere near the coast of Iran. What else do we have? Iran said it's ready and monitoring U.S. redeployments that are for either psychological pressure in the negotiation or for a surprise and rapid military attack, and warn if attacked, they will retarget Aramco, Yanbu, and Fujairah. That's from Tasnim news agency. Last night, there was a report from Axios that, or maybe it wasn't, I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was Iranian media. It was either Iranian or Israeli media. It was right before I went on George Galloway's show. I talked about it when I was on his show. So, cite that video if you want to get the full analysis. But there was a report last night that Iran believes that there could be a surprise U.S. or Israeli attack in the middle of these negotiations, right? Because we all know that in the first attack on the first day, when they, obviously Iran was not taken off guard by the fact that the attack took place. They were clearly taken off guard by the fact that this attack was launched at an elementary school and killed 168 schoolgirls and also their teachers and staff at the school. But okay, so they couldn't catch the Iranians off guard back then, but now they're going to try to do so by way of, I guess, launching something in the middle of these negotiations. So we'll see what happens there. Pakistani official to Reuters just said, "We have received positive signal from Iran. Things are changing and we are seeking their delegation's participation tomorrow or the day after tomorrow." I will say the Pakistanis have been consistently throughout the entirety of this process overly positive. They have been overly optimistic, overly positive. One could even say that they have been misrepresenting the state of these negotiations and how they have gone. But one thing is for certain, whatever the U.S. tries to do in this next round of fighting is not going to go well for them. A retired U.S. Army colonel speaking to ABC came out and said that Iran uses infrared systems instead of traditional radar. American fighter jets like the F-35 and F-15 are not designed to face these systems. Iranian airspace is no longer safe for U.S. fighter jets. Take a listen.
Colonel Gainier, what does this mean for U.S. jet strikes and other aerial missions moving forward?
That the skies are not as safe as they perhaps presumed. My guess is that this was daytime. My guess is that that the Iranians used what's called infrared. So they used detection that's passive, that used heat differences. The president did say that their radars roll down, and so he probably can claim that legitimately. But the fact that there are still anti-aircraft kinds of capabilities that are based on heat temperature differences that can identify aircraft and still target aircraft is probably what got this F-15.
Colonel Gainier.
How do we have a military that now aims to be funded to the tune of $1.5 trillion? $1.5 trillion. 1.5, not billion, trillion dollars. How do we have a military this well funded and no one accounted for like infrared radar systems? How did no one account for this? That's my question. The answer very well could be that they, of course, did account for this. And they presume that in the future, they can now go to the U.S. government and say, hey, we need even more. We need $2 trillion now because we gave you the stuff for the traditional radar systems, but now we need the protection from the infrared system. So now we need $2 trillion. We need $3 trillion. Yeah, I don't know. An Iranian air defense officer speaking to Iran State TV. This is pretty interesting. He was interviewed just the other day, and it was posted online today. He said, "Greetings to my beloved leader and the people. We're honored to serve the people and our leader. Stealth is over for Lockheed Martin," he has to say. He couldn't be any more right. And the other so-called stealth fighter jet makers. In the 12-day war, we got the experience to upgrade toward new generation air defense systems. The interviewer says, tell us about that night at 2 a.m. when you hit the was he talking about the F-35? Yes, the F-35. Sighting was confirmed. He says we had it fully tracked. We had a perfect firing position. There must have been a bomb that went off. This must have been recorded. So they must have recorded this in the final days before the ceasefire, because that looks like a bomb went off right there. So this was recorded before the ceasefire took place, and now they're releasing it. He said, we had a perfect firing position. What did you feel firing at the F-35? We've learned to say, God willing, certainly, because what we do, God does. When we fire, God fires. When we saw it hit, how did the ops crew react? The pride of the men at impact when the aircraft was struck was indescribable, he says. You brought Lockheed Martin tech down. That night, the news broke. The company's stock crashed. When the footage dropped, it was wild. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Well, Trump can try to do whatever he wants to do here. They can go and do some crazy thing like trying to seize Karg Island. I don't think any of this is going to go well for them. I don't think it's going to go, I think this is going to go worse than the first series of this war. I think it's going to go even worse than that. The Iranians have learned. They've taken their time. They've been able to dig up new launchers. They have had a moment to breathe, to assess, to examine mistakes that may have been made. And also, of course, I'm sure they've made extensive plans for every single possibility the U.S. could throw at them, okay? We just had a statement as a last point on the story from a member of Iran's negotiating delegation, a member of parliament, Mahmoud Nabavian, who said, negotiating with the vile American regime under the shadow of threats, attacks, and ceasefire violations is not only meaningless, but also harmful, and it emboldens the enemy to become even more greedy. Yeah, this is also why I don't think that they're serious. Trump is serious about any sort of negotiation, because he keeps saying things like, the Iranians are going to agree to the deal and they are total losers and they're going to capitulate. They're going to bend the knee to us. He's saying things along this sort of line. And if you want someone to agree in a negotiation, you don't say that. Trump, the king of negotiating, he knows this, He knows this. If you're giving someone an offer, you say, you know what, I'm being very generous with you. I think this is a terrific offer. You're not going to get a better offer anywhere else. You go somewhere else, it's going to go disaster. It's going to be a disaster for you. I'm really, bending over backward here. My people in the back room, my bosses aren't happy about the deal I'm giving you, but, you seem like a nice guy. We want to work together. We want, you say stuff like that. You don't say like, bitch, you're buying this car from me and you're getting absolutely fucked. You are getting so screwed over. You're my bitch. You don't like, that's what he's doing right now. And this is a nation that literally runs on being honorable, that runs on being having pride in standing up in the face of dishonesty, in the face of evil, in the face of liars, thieves, snakes, whatever it may be. And they're not going to respond well to that. No one would, but especially Iranians. What can I say? They're not serious. They're going back to war. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or GiveSendGo. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.